Hello and welcome to this video. So you might have noticed something is different. Well, today I am filming in 4K. So what exactly is 4K? So 4K, also known as UHD, is a filming standard that is different from 1080p. So what do all these things mean? So 1080p basically means there's around 2 million pixels, and 4K actually means 8 million pixels. So that's 4 times the resolution. So why don't I always film in 4K if it's better? So in this video, I'm going to give you the advantages and disadvantages of filming and uploading in 4K to YouTube. You can make the decision to whether you want to be uploading in 4K or not in 2022. So the first advantage of filming in 4K is the fact that it has 4 times the resolution of 1080p, which means more clarity. So the more pixels you have, the more information you have of the different edges, and actually the more clarity you have. So essentially, with more pixels, you'll be able to have a sharper image, and which means it gives you a lot more detailed, a lot more fine detail. You can see more of my individual hairs maybe, or you can see more of the outline. So essentially more clarity. Another advantage of filming in 4K is that it gives you more creative freedom. So because you have more pixels, it gives you the freedom to actually crop differently. If you crop into maybe a 1080p or a 720p HD video, you're actually losing a lot of quality, and you can see oftentimes where creators zoom in, you lose a lot of the quality and it kind of becomes blurry. But with 4K, you can actually crop lots and retain so much of the detail that people will not notice you're digitally zooming instead of optically zooming. And this also means that if you've recorded your initial footage in the way that you don't want to do, afterwards in post-processing you can actually crop and reframe your image. So you can get rid of like a whole lamppost in your image, or like sometimes I do it where I leave my microphone boom stand in there, so you can actually get rid of that, and it gives you a lot of creative freedom after the fact. So in terms of photography and videography, it's always better to capture the most information first, because afterwards you can change it. So as you can imagine in a photo, if you have a lot more of the image, you can always crop later on, but you can't go back and add stuff that actually weren't there. So as with anything, record the most information first and then get rid of what you need. The other advantage of filming in 4K is that 4K is a newer video format, and with that, most 4K videos actually have a higher bitrate. Now, what does bitrate mean? So this basically means that the pixels have more data. You might buy a camera and it says it has 8-bit video recording or 10-bit. This bit corresponds to the amount of color information the pixels have. So 8-bit has, I think, around 16 million, where 10-bit has around 1 billion colors, and the more colors you have, the more information you have. So sometimes you might see a video, you can see a lot of banding between the skies. So you see a video of the sky and you can see there's lots of gradients in between it. That's because the video doesn't have the color information to actually accurately depict the sky. And you might be thinking 16 million colors, like honestly I thought they were just RGB, but each color represents a certain amount of information, and you really do need billions of colors to accurately tell the difference between subtle differences. Like even a white wall will have so many different types of color, and it's something that you don't actually think about in real life, but when it comes to video and video information, and when people are actually viewing your video, this color information, this bitrate and pixel information is very important. So 4K video means higher bitrate, higher color bit rates, and more information that you can play around with later on. So another feature of 4K in a lot of cameras is a higher dynamic range. So dynamic range is the difference between the brightest part of an image and the darkest part of an image. And again, this is important, and it might not sound important, but the more information you have between these two dark regions and the bright regions, the more accurately you can depict what you want to actually show to your audience. So for example, if you have a camera with a very low dynamic range, when you try to film outside, the sun will overpower your sensor and you get an image that's blown out. And because it's blown out, it means that camera doesn't have enough information to see what's in between like darkness and complete light. So you get blown out images, you get underexposed images, and with a higher dynamic range you can accurately see the difference between something that's supposed to be really bright, such as the sun, and then maybe the leaves on the floor of a forest that you're filming. So dynamic range is very, very important. So the fifth reason why you would want to film in 4K is the fact that YouTube compresses anything that you give to it in a video format to oblivion. So basically YouTube will compress even the best, even if you film in 8K raw, like with a red camera that costs £1 million, YouTube would destroy it because they can't actually store all that information. So they use a compression algorithm. So basically, if you feed something with a higher bitrate into YouTube, it will lower the bitrate anyway. So you might as well feed it with the best information and the resulting image won't be as bad. If you feed a 1080p image, yes, it's going to get compressed and it will look less than 1080p. So if you're putting a 4K image, it will look less than what you have filmed it with, but it will look a lot better than 1080p. And also YouTube allocates a higher bitrate to 4K videos. So bitrate is as important as resolution because it stores all the information between the different bands, different colors and different gradients. So yeah, essentially the quality is going to look a lot better in 4K as compared to HD and 1080p. However, that doesn't mean you should just go out and run and buy the latest 4K camera, because there are many disadvantages to 4K and why content creators still prefer to use 1080p. The first one is the fact that it requires a lot of storage to be working with 4K files. So this means that you have to get more SD cards, you have to buy more hard drives, and you have to have a better computer with more storage in order to deal with these increasing file sizes that come with 4K images, especially when you talk about 10-bit color and 422. This is advanced level stuff, but when you have more color depth, higher bit rates, the file size increases dramatically, where sometimes you can even have like 6 gigabits a second. So you can imagine a 128 gigabyte memory card can be filled up in a few minutes, and that's crazy because you have to spend so much money in buying storage. And also, the larger the file sizes, the longer they actually take to transfer from the memory card to your computer to your backup storage. So it just takes more time and more money into buying storage equipment. The second disadvantage, and quite a big disadvantage for filming in 4K, is the fact that it takes longer to edit your videos. So as you can imagine, with more file information, it actually takes longer for the computer to process these files. So whether you're scrubbing through the timeline, whether you're editing it, you're adding clips and you're color grading, it will just take a lot longer to edit a 4K video. And this requires you to purchase computers that are more powerful. And that kind of leads me on to the third disadvantage, is the fact that you're going to have to invest in better equipment, such as a faster computer with more RAM, with better CPU and a good graphics card in order to edit 4K, because even scrubbing the timeline can become so slow when you use 4K. So actually I'm filming in 4K now and using my old computer in uni, and I'm just thinking about how long it's going to take to actually scrub through, because even now at 1080p it struggles, so at 4K it's probably going to choke, and I'm not sure if I can actually export the video. But anyway, you have to invest in more, and investing initially, especially when you don't have a big audience, can be quite painful, or a lot of people are not just willing to do that. So that is a consideration to make when thinking about filming only in 4K. The other thing relating to 4K, the other disadvantage, is the fact that it takes longer to upload to YouTube. If you're a YouTuber and you're uploading lots of different videos per channel and per day, then it's going to take you a lot longer to upload your file onto YouTube, because these file sizes are a lot bigger than 1080p or HD videos. And especially if you have a poor internet connection, something maybe below 10 megabits a second, it can take you hours if not days to upload this. So it could be the difference between taking an extra 4 hours to upload to 4K. You have to take that into consideration, because time is money, and sometimes you can't afford to actually spend the extra time to get that benefit that you're looking for. And the last and probably the most important reason why a lot of people do not film in 4K is the fact that your audience can't actually tell the difference between 4K and 1080p. And that's just the biggest one. Like, what is the point of putting all that effort in, having more hard drives, having more storage, investing in better equipment, only for your audience to not even care about the resolution or even be able to tell the difference? So I think that's the biggest one. I think that really puts into perspective how not everyone, not all your end users or your audience will have the equipment to actually take advantage of 4K. So they might not have a 4K monitor or a 4K PC or a 4K TV. So realistically, they might be even watching on their mobiles, which most mobiles are not 4K. Like, no iPhone has ever gone even near that. So yeah, I feel like this video is giving you the advantages and disadvantages of filming 4K. So don't just get swayed into the fact that, yeah, it has a 4K badge on your YouTube video. Make sure that you invest in good quality equipment that not only has the resolution, but it has the high dynamic range and high bit rates that you can actually see the difference. Because quite frankly, GoPro cameras can be 4K, but the resolution is just terrible. But anyway, I hope this video has given you points that you can take into consideration and to decide whether you should be filming in 4K or not. And honestly, in my honest opinion, opinion, I feel like you do not have to film in 4K. I think 1080p is more than enough, even for the next few years, even when it's 2025. 1080p just has enough visual information to convey your message, and even a lot of new films do not necessarily have a 4K resolution, but doesn't mean you don't enjoy the experience. So guys, I hope you liked this video. Leave me a comment and let me know if you prefer this video in 4K or do you prefer 1080p, or you cannot tell the difference. And as always, thank you for watching.